starting fresh a second time. So this is committee on the Senate Agricultural Committee's second meeting of the morning, and it's 10:16 or 17, and we'll get started. We had a little bit of time between our last meeting and our next meeting, so I thought it would maybe give us a little time to talk in regards to the dairy pricing regulations that the DFR went over with us. Michael Pishak went over with us last week, and Kelly's with us, and we already had one discussion and didn't know if if there were issues there, if you thought much about that, to give any comments on where you think we ought to go forward with, or have more people in to question regards to that, that report. Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What I'm remembering most about Michael Pichek's presentation was, in the end, they really didn't have any suggestion or solution for us. I know that Senator Leahy is still on the Senate Agriculture Committee, I believe, in Washington. And I don't know, because I'm not as familiar with the pricing, the milk pricing situation. How often do they change it? What sort of influence would he have, to take a look at how it affects Vermont? I mean, I'm sure he does. It isn't like this is news to him. He's been on that committee for a long time. But that was about the only thing I could think of. I mean, we can't just all of a sudden decide what the federal milk price is going to be. That has to come from them. And it didn't seem like he was saying, Michael Pichek, that is, that we could add a premium, for Vermont fluid or even cheese and sort of get away with it. So I think it's got to come from the federal government, but I don't know.
Well, either region, they talked about regionally being able to maybe get together, but yeah, it's the whole problem all these years has been with the federal milk market order and not being able to make positive changes for the farmers' benefit. They've made plenty for the processors' benefit, but very few, if any, for the farmers' benefit. And, like I said the other day, people are going in and paying basically as much for a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream as they are for a gallon of milk. Well, there's a heck of a lot more nourishment in a gallon of milk than there is in a pint of ice cream. So the big issue is people some say that people won't buy milk because it's too high a price. Well, I don't buy beer because I don't drink beer or that, but price of beer, I'm sure, has gone up in the last 20 years. And the price of milk is actually lower now than it was 20 years ago in the stores. And the lady that kind of turned the light bulb on cost was the lady from up in Franklin County that spoke about trying to sell milk, and it's $1 for the jug. It's 5 cents for the cap. It's, I don't know, 30 cents for the labels. And and the store keeps 20% of the sale price. And, you keep deducting, and that there's nothing left for the farmer. And instead of the price being up to, $6 a gallon, we're starting out at a too lower price. And so I don't know. You guys, other guys have thoughts on that? Anthony, you played with milk pricing for
Yeah,
many
too long.
years.
The problem is it has to do with controlling the milk, and the processors and the people who move milk around are the ones who actually control it. I mean, what you'd really have to do, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but you'd have to be able to form like a union of farmers who say that they want to bargain for the price of milk. And if they don't get the price they want, then they're not going to provide their milk to those processors, which of course the processors could just say no, and the farmers have nowhere to send their milk unless there's some other way of moving it. But that's what it comes down to, is somebody has to be able to control the milk supply and be able to like bargain with the processors or somehow move the processors in a different direction. In the deal world, the state would there'd be a group of farmers who would form a union, and the state would purchase the milk or set the price for the milk that goes through the union. But I mean, that's hard to imagine that happening in our world, to tell you the truth, but that's what really needs to happen. I mean, years ago, we got a group of farmers to sign cards saying that they were willing to join a union of farmers. And within a couple of months, really, we got over a third of the milk in the state of Vermont farmers signed on to. These are some of the big farmers, it was the Rowells as well as smaller farmers. And they all basically said that they would be willing to be part of a negotiating group that would try to meet with the co-ops and try to bargain for either a better price or reduced expenses, reduce, like, what do you call those things, the stop fees, transportation costs, that kind of stuff. And we met with Agrimark, we met with St. Albans, we met with, I think it was DFA at the time. But they were not willing to budge. They basically were calling the farmers bluff. It was sad because the farmers were willing to put their names on cards saying, we want to be a part of this, but there's just not an alternative place to send their milk. So some of it got dumped, but a lot of it just, the union, the effort fell apart because farmers were not able to bring their milk anywhere else.
I didn't know, Roger Albee wasn't on the call last week, but I think I stayed here, Smith, and he didn't say anything or ask any questions. But I'm wondering if it would pay to have him come in, for a half hour or 45 minutes and and discuss what he thought came out of that report that would be meaningful and give us some reason to move forward in some fashion to try to to keep the ball rolling a little bit. Because
I think that would be worth it. I think because there's a level at which you want to just throw up your hands and say, well, there's nothing we can do about this. But on the other hand, you don't want to do that unless you're absolutely sure there's nothing you can do about this. And I think having them come in and talk with us a little bit about their perception and what ideas they may have would be worth it, to have that conversation, I think.
Well, I mean, from our visits with the watershed people, we're asking and expecting, our farmers and ag landowners to move forward with sustainable ag practices. And they were pretty good about not complaining about the price of milk too bad. But
But if you want,
you know,
if you want sustainable agriculture, you have to have a sustainable price. That's the bottom line. I mean, asking these people to do things a certain way in order to keep the industry sustainable and the environment sustainable, but they're expected to do it without a sustainable income or sustainable price. And I think that's what farmers want more than a higher price. I think it's fair to say that most farmers would want a stable price. They want to know what they're going to get. Even if they're not going to get $20, they're only going to get 18. They want to know they're going to get 18. Then they can operate under the knowledge that they're going to get 18. They set a target for their expenses and the price they're going to get. So it's the ups and downs that is really a problem for people.
Chris.
My attitude is that it is maybe not time to permanently accept, but maybe we're wise to acknowledge our ability to impact price of milk is just about zero, and work on some of the other things that also produce income. Payment for ecosystem services, maybe the idea of we've been trying to get the local food into schools, which should generate markets. We've learned in New York did generate markets. So some of that stuff that has an indirect impact on bottom lines for farmers, that strikes me as within our control, at least.
Yep.
The only thing about all that makes me feel kind of bad is that to get money for ecosystem payments, or sustainable practices, any of that is all good, but we're going to have to get taxpayer money to be able to do that, right? I mean, we aren't going to get it off a tree.
Yeah, but I guess my attitude has, or my hope has been that some of this could come out of the clean water money that we're already spending, right? This is very clearly halting runoff, these practices. And we're spending millions and millions, tens of millions on clean water. And so it's been my hope that we could just tuck some of that money to this in a more direct relationship.
Yeah, but all along, what we're actually doing, if you really think about it, is subsidizing these processors and the storekeepers, and it should be coming out of the market. I mean, and that, well, we only heard it, I think, maybe once. Was somebody said, well, when we had the compact, everything was good. Well, it was good. And the real weird part of that whole deal was that we never used any of taxpayer money. It came out of the system, and it stabilized the store prices so that people that were, on fixed incomes and low incomes, it really helped them, because the milk dealers and processors couldn't jack the price 50 cents a gallon, or it stayed more stable so they could plan on it. And
How many people were in that compact lobby?
all of New England states.
New York?
And, well, the eastern part of New York, because they go into our order,
Right.
they received, I don't know, like $150 million out of the compact, and yet they couldn't get it passed in their legislature. But it came in, so we had compensatory payments built into that. So they got their same pay as the rest of the farmers in New England, but heck, you'd never get that through Congress today. Boehner's the one that messed it up the last time that, well, when Bill Rowell and that crew went to DC, Boehner wouldn't bring it up on the House side, and so they never got to vote on it. But Corey?
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with Senator Pearson if there's a way to take some more water quality money and find ways to put it on farmers, because I think a lot of folks have given farmers a black eye over this. You know, I think they've done good work and continue to have good work to do on that front. Also, I think understanding what our limitations are, you know, I said it last time, I think we really got to look at the programs we're doing to help farmers, you know, with business practices and risk management, and see if they're, you know, where we can shore those up and, you know, make them better. Are they teaching the right, I know we do programs from, but are they teaching the right things? Are they really focusing on the right stuff of what we're hearing from farmers? So I think we just may want to analyze that and put some pressure, you know, to help farmers with their business management practices and their risk management. You know, we can only kind of help them on the business end, it seems.
Yeah.
Well, and the capacity for those programs are way too small. I mean, those programs, people tell us, have been effective, but they can take 15 people a year. You know, we need them to take 150 people a year.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we can find funding for that, or even, you know, something I'd be supportive of.
Well, sometime we ought to get Ryan Patch in and see how that's moving forward, and you know what we could do to beef that up. I think would be a positive move forward. So we could have Dan in and just get his view of the report that we got last week, and see what he thinks. You know, if there was any positive stuff that came out of that we could possibly do. Then start looking at with, I don't know who over at the agency, but some of those, I don't know if it would be the agency or the ag extension that should be working on like risk management plans and things in that direction.
Well, and it's the viability folks, right?
Yeah, Gus's crew, Ella, where she's going to be leaving, but hopefully the other lady that's taken over will, you know, talk about that and see. We can ask them how that's all going. Did you notice the other day they kept talking about the cost of production? You know, they got to work on cost of production. We got to get to work and keep that. If you're a big farm, your cost of production is much better than if you're a small farm. Well, when I asked the lady from DFA, well, give us a ballpark figure of the number that we could shoot for. You know, should we shoot for $17, $18, $15? She never came back with an answer. And so hell, if you don't have a starting point, how do you get to the finish line? And you know, that's kind of bad too. Because we have production costs that are all over the place. If you're 35 years old and you just took over your dad's farm and dad's going to retire, your production cost is going to be quite a lot higher than the guy that's maybe 50 years old and has been farming for 30 years. So, but if they would just give us a ballpark number, so that we would know how much do we have to help out in between, you could shoot for that. But Kelly, how about you? Did you come up with any great resolves from the meeting after you've had a weekend or so to think about it?
Unfortunately, I don't think I have all the solutions, but if there are specific legal questions that I can answer, I'll do my best.
Well, I think we are in a much more positive spot than you are. And you think with our years of experience, we might have, but we'll certainly keep working on it. And so do you much, Corey, from the farmers up in me?
You're cutting out, Bobby. I don't know if it was me or you.
No, it was Bobby, because it was the same way here. You talked like an alien for a minute and then it went away.
Yeah, on me? Well,
Funny sounding alien.
I'm sort of an alien.
Bad choice of
No,
words.
I asking the question, do you hear anything from the folks up in Franklin County, the farmers up there?
Yeah, I mean, we've heard from a good chunk of them ourselves as a committee, but in various conversations, it's the education, it's the risk management piece. Some of my farmers built up a beef operation in the last year or two, and now they're having, obviously those issues, being able to process their beef. So, I think, we've told them to diversify in some spots where they have it hasn't worked. So I think that I haven't been able to dive into it, but Leon Berthium did send me an article that I scanned, but just, a net zero dairy and some conversations about that. So maybe there's places we can plug in and, if resources are available there. But I think to me, they want to do what they've done for business, but, I think it's just finding ways. There are things they suggest that couldn't get through this body. I mean, I'd love to take them out of Efficiency Vermont, and I'd love to get rid of their permit fees, but I have a feeling that would have a rough passage through the building, if at all. But I think the most we could do is help educate them, and then most of them are my friends' fathers, and so my friends, who are looking to take over their father's farms, it's trying to understand how they can do that. That generational transition and how everyone can afford it. We saw one of the Brandon farms, in Fairfield go over to the Horrigans, but the young Brandon didn't want to take over the farm, and so it's and that's Brucey Sarah's brother's farm.
Pat.
No, it was Bruce's farm, so it was RJ and them. So
their sons didn't, it would be Pat's sons, right?
Bruce's son.
Bruce's son, and he didn't want to farm.
No. And I grew up with RJ. So some of Harold Horgan's boys who are my age are going over there to take that one over. But, they're still eventually going to have to buy their father's farms and do all that. So anything we can, you're seeing it not just in dairy, but in businesses across Vermont. Some of these businesses have grown to the size where an average Vermonter can't afford to buy them. And so, we've got to figure out this whole, this continuity planning, if you will, or this transition of generations of businesses.
Yeah. Well, I know we have quite a lot of work ahead of us trying to figure that all out. And what, next, I'll try to work Dan in between, you know, if we have a slow time next week in between, other business, I'll try to, uh, give him a, you know, a half hour, 45 minutes to, come and give us his, perspective and on where we ought to go. And I think Michael's going to be with us maybe tomorrow. So we can talk with him some as well. So anything else, Chris?
Kelly, do you know, or maybe you could ask Michael, when we look at the food waste bill, the compost bill, there's been a proposal from Carrie Jaguar to broaden it a little bit, and we've gone back and forth with the two agencies. Do you have that language, or do you know if Michael has it from Carrie? Because I'm not sure. Maybe we did see it, but that does strike me as the next step for us as we try to tackle that one.
Yeah.
I have not seen that language yet, and I don't believe Michael has either, but we're happy to work on that as soon as we get that language.
Is it appropriate, Mr. Chair, to ask Kelly to reach out to Carrie and try to get that going?
Yeah, definitely. And get that. And yeah, because hopefully in the next week and a half, we can get that bill out and gone. And
No doubt Ray will want to look at it.
Yeah, you better have some visits with him. Make sure you haven't got earplugs in though when you talk to him. If you could do that, Kelly, that would probably help Michael quite a bit as well, and get that ready to go. And we'll be sure to have that on the schedule for next week.
I'll do that, Mr. Chair.
Just for
Yeah,
what it's worth,
appreciate it.
I've seen that language somewhere in my email. I know I've seen it because I remember skimming through it, and there was things about it that didn't make sense to me. Like I couldn't quite get what they were getting at. So he might say, if you call him, Kelly, or you contact him, he might say, well, I already sent that, because I'm pretty sure I got something. I'll look for it, but doesn't mean you shouldn't call him and ask him to send it to you, because you're the one who needs to see it. But I remember getting it and looking through it and just wondering kind of what they were trying to achieve. Like it was just sloppily done, to put it one way.
Well, with that, we'll shift gears, and we have the folks with us.
Can I say, Bobby, before we do that, I did find it. It's in my email. It came from Linda on January 25th. It says, Linda, this is what the agency would like to see incorporated into the chicken and compost bill. Please distribute to the committee.
But you didn't think that it was?
I just had a hard time dealing with it, reading through it. Kelly, what's your email, Kelly?
It is KMcGill, KMCGILL at ledge.state.vt.us.
There it is.
Thank you.
Anything else? Well, we'll switch over to Betsy and Faye and Amy and anyone else that happens to jump on here with us in regards to our education bill, and they, I guess, if you want to give us a little update on hooking what we talked about, hooking the three different proposals together and into one bill that seemed to make sense. If you could talk a little bit about that. I guess Jim was supposed to be here, but like normally, he was booked up already or busy somewhere. So if you could lead off, we know all you folks, and you just introduce yourselves as your turn comes up. That'll be fine.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
welcome and good to see you.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Faye Mack. I am here from Hunger Free Vermont today. Thanks for having us back in. So just to share a little bit of an update and frame out this conversation today, Senator Starr had reached out to us about the idea of, there are a lot of food security and local food related requests this year and opportunities. And is there a way to kind of address a few of them holistically and comprehensively, because we know that they all are needed to work together in order to feed the full system. And so Hunger Free and Vermont Feed and some other folks connected, and the three where we really found some alignment around how to sort of holistically have a single bill is around how we're feeding kids at school. So focusing in on school food, knowing that there are a couple of other food security and local agriculture related requests, appropriations requests, like Vermonters Feeding Vermonters and the NOFA Farm Share Program. But those feel separate because they're not part of the institution of schools. But there are three school related opportunities: universal school meals, the local purchasing incentive, also called Vermont Food for Vermont Kids, and fully funding farm to school at $500,000 are all connected within how we're feeding kids when they're at school, and the ways that local agriculture connects into that. And so we're really excited about the idea of approaching all three together. One of the things that became really clear in hearing testimony from our partners over the last couple of weeks is just how interrelated they are, and how, the support that comes from a fully funded farm to school program is really needed to be able to provide the technical assistance to make the local purchasing incentive successful and strong. The local purchasing bill would help schools offset the cost of universal school meals and improve meal quality. So they're all so connected that it makes a lot of sense to look at them together. So we're excited about the opportunity, and today I think the hope is just to talk about what that might look like and what the process would be. And if Jim's able to join at some point or afterwards, we're happy to work directly with him or Mike on Ledge Council in helping to kind of craft this too in whatever way we can be helpful.
Well, with as many programs as there are out there, I just feel that if, as we move forward, if we can have a packaged program that works well together as well our students, that'll be great. And I know, the feds are talking even about having some type of a federal deal with universal meals. And if we've got a system that's pretty well ready to go and that breaks loose, we could get into that system, I really quick. And so that's good that we're working in that direction. The committee, what do you think in regards to that? No comments? We got them all tongue-tied.
It seems like a good approach.
Yeah, I think so.
Have you gotten to the point where you could probably, no drafting has been done yet?
We aren't able to work with Ledge Council directly unless you or another senator gives us permission. So we need a written or verbal on this, or some way for Jim or Mike O'Grady to get instruction to connect with us, and then we're able to do that. But we haven't gotten that yet.
Linda, are you on, Linda?
Yes.
Did you get that word to Jim in regards to working with Faye and Betsy and the crew to work on that, work on this?
All I've done so far is invite him to this meeting, which he couldn't come to, and ask him if he'd been in touch, which I believe he's gotten correspondence from Faye and Betsy and Amy. But I'll find out how to officially let him know so he can take it over.
Thank you, Linda.
Yeah, I thought we'd taken care of that, and so we'll keep working on it. Yeah, Chris.
Well, maybe Anthony had a question. I don't want to jump.
I was just to say the thing to do is to send an email to Jim and to Faye and to a few others, like connect them all in an email with Bobby or one of our names on it, and say that, Jim, we'd like you to work with these folks to do whatever. So send everybody an email to Jim, to Faye, to Betsy, and to Amy, and say, we want you to work with these folks.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to do that right now?
You could, but I thought that's what was happening from the office. But yeah, go ahead, and if we double send it, it won't do any harm.
Okay, I'll take care of that, Linda, and I'll copy you and the chair.
Thank you
Great.
all. And I will say that
Yeah.
both the local incentive purchasing bill and the universal school meals bill have been introduced in the House. So there's language. So I think we can move, it can come together pretty quickly once we're able to get going.
And you would want the language to be the same?
Yes.
And you don't see a need to change or build on what they've done?
No, I think we're really interested once your committee and whoever else this kind of bill would go to starts to take a look at it, about what kinds of changes may arise. But I think at the moment, at least I looked at Betsy for